Welcome to the Good Times, everybody. Good Times Hour, everybody. All right, B, take it away.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls around the world, please welcome to the T our next special guest. He's Cali-born, Tar Heel bred, and now a Cajun-style cork-popping son of a fish. Who dat, who ha, hell yeah, it's the king of the big huckers and far chuckers, powered by Bojangles cluckers and buckets of cheer wine. Life is fine, he's here for a good time and a long time, because the sun always shines on this riverboat delight. He's the champion boss with the champion toss. The High Plains drifter, the crusher who, like Thanos, opens up a rift or three in the wolf and warp of reality when he grips it and rips it further than any human in the cosmos. He's the reason Ricky never won an Am World title, the heir apparent of the Stokely Big Bomb, only mightier. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to the most feared redfish slayer this side of water. From Nolans, the big deuce from the Big Easy, David, Big Wig, Big Life, Wiggins Jr.
Nice.
That was awesome. Best intro ever.
Right on. Thank you. I appreciate that. So obviously, everyone out there tonight, we're talking with David Wiggins Jr. We're going to talk about your playing career, about life is better phrase, better one, but for now, we're going to say a child prodigy, and having the staying power in the game as well. We're going to talk about boat life, angling, and of course, we can't skip over perhaps your biggest legacy in the sport, distance. So, Mace, why don't you tee up our guest for those unfortunate souls out there who might not have a chance to be in touch with reality?
All right, so you did the bulk of your growing up in High Point, North Carolina, and you're currently living in New Orleans, Louisiana, but actually you have an update, a temporary update or a current update for that. You're staying in Alabama currently?
Yeah, just recently kind of got a contract over here for a job. I'd still call New Orleans home right now, but over here in Dauphin Island, Alabama for the moment.
Yeah, it's interesting, the way you put it earlier about, it makes moving real easy. Just untie and start the engine, right?
Crank up and go.
So you've been playing Frisbee since 99 and disc golf since 2001. So you're currently 28 years old. That makes you a 22-year veteran of disc golf. And it's really interesting, like Paul was saying earlier in your intro, that we are going to try to come up with some sort of a term for this, but I don't even really know exactly what to call it. But like, we've interviewed Nolan Grider, Nate Doss, Steve Brinster falls into that same category too, because he really came onto the scene when he was 18, 19 years old, and 20 for sure was when he really started to launch. And so it's really interesting that most of the folks that we've interviewed so far are definitely more towards our age, but there's certainly a lot of guys like yourself who are definite veterans at this point. You've got a lot of titles under your belt. So I think that's a really interesting aspect of the sport right now. And I think that it's also going to be interesting to see how many of these guys that are in their 19, 20, and 21-year-old range that are stomping it right now, what are they going to be doing in 10 years? It's kind of like what you and I talked about last night. It's plenty of time for another career.
Yeah.
So, you also have a few things to your credit, like world distance titles, world championships. The Whip Dip world distance title is 338 meters or 1,108 feet. That's from March 2016.
That's crazy,
Yep.
man. I can't even see 1,100 feet. How did you even know when it landed?
Like Double G always says, it looks like a grain of salt falling out of the sky when it hit the ground. And it was just incredible to watch the disc go that far.
Wow.
I didn't expect to throw it that far. We had crazy conditions that day, but just connected with the perfect throw, and watching a disc soar like that is something I'll never forget.
Yeah, I'm sure. Here's the last two lines I'm going to read about this, and then we're going to talk in depth about it. But you got 4 world distance records. You got 4 junior world championships and 1 Am World title, as well as 5 junior world doubles titles, and the youngest player ever signed by Innova. So which one means more, the distance title or any one of those world titles or all those world titles? I mean, is it like one title, the distance title compared to all the rest of that? How does that rank?
I mean, they are different aspects of the sport, but I would say the distance title I'm most proud of out of all my disc golf accomplishments.
Yeah.
Well, and this will tell you, I'm a little bit out of touch to some degree, but I didn't realize that you had lost the title briefly and then gained it back. How did that feel? I mean, what was that like when you saw it go away? I mean, obviously when you got it the first time, I'm sure that was just a super feeling of elation. And then when it went away, what did that feel like?
I just felt like I had to go back to the field and put in some more work and get back out there. I was there the day that Simon broke it. We were throwing in the desert, and he connected with a great throw, and that just motivated me to get back out there and try to challenge it eventually.
Nice.
So on date, see, I've never been to that. I mean, I in fact, last year, like we were talking about yesterday, last year was the first time that I actually spent the entire day at the distance qualifying at USCGC. Usually I've got 10 other things to do, and I'm glad that they made it a priority for me to be there because I really had a great time. I felt like it was more of an event than it had ever been before, but that's just one event in one spot. It's not ideal. It's not perfect. And I've also heard other people say that it's not ideal or not perfect to go up to the high desert either, but that is where the records stood from for what, probably almost 20 years now. I mean, Stokely had it before you. Isn't that correct? And that's where he did it.
Sandstrom.
Sandstrom, yeah.
Oh, Sandstrom. That's right.
Sandstorm.
But that was in the high desert too, wasn't it?
Correct. Yep.
So for the long time, the champ always used to say, come to the beach, you know? And so anyways, it's, you know, I mean, there's always going to be an asterisk that somebody wants to throw out there. And, you know, I don't really subscribe to that. I think that, hey, this is where it happened. This is where it took place. The title was handed out. So no real need to argue unless you've got a legitimate argument, and then go ahead and have an event. And let's see if we can break it there.
You know what? The next level, once disc golf breaks into the stratosphere, we're going to take people up to the moon and do a distance shot up there. Then you'll see some real distance. You know what I'm saying?
It's going to be hard to pull that off with a spacesuit on, though.
Maybe just no 360s allowed, I think. But I mean, that's one of the interesting things is whether you call it a child prodigy or a junior veteran. You know, you've had a 20+ year career and you're still in your 20s. As Mace has said, we've had a lot of guests on who are, you know, have had 30-year careers, but they're in their 50s. And so you are of that class of people who grew up like, and Stokely's another one. We shouldn't eliminate Stokely from that list.
That's a good point. And, you know, he started, well, not quite as young as David, but pretty close.
He was like 6, yeah.
Yeah, he was pretty close. So that's a good point too. Stokely's definitely one of those guys too. And he's looking at almost a 40-year career at this point now.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's one hopes that we're going to see of the crop of young kids playing now. I mean, it's just great to see the explosion of youth golf. And for someone like yourself, you're always going to be a world champion. And you're always going to be one of those ones that the kids will always look up to. You know, when people enter into the junior world championships, they're going to want to see who were the past champions. They're going to see your name multiple times there. I think that's another thing. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, man.
No, well, I was just going to say another thing I skipped over here was that you were the youngest person to qualify for the USCGC and also the youngest person that Innova ever signed, and both of those happened when you were 13. That's you know, and that was a long time ago. That was 15 years already ago, you know?
Yeah. And if it was before 13, though, I think I was like 10 or something.
Okay. That's early with the research. I'm sorry. I didn't realize it was the same year. I thought it was the same year. Sorry. 10.
Yeah, I was young. I think it was after I set the 10-year-old junior distance record that I think since been broken. But after that, I got on the the scout team for Innova. So I was
that 10
as a kid.
Where'd you do that 10-year-old record at? Was that in Tulsa?
No, that was in Point, North Carolina.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember
I
I have a really good memory of you in Tulsa because I ran the distance there, and I remember you walking up, and it was kind of a double G flashback for me too, because when I first got to know him pretty well was that year in 2001, I believe it was, when he caddied for Cam, and so he's carrying Cam's bag, and so then I see you, a few years later, and both of you guys have it slinging so low on the shoulder bags that it's hitting you in the calves, and I was like, I've seen this before. This is a different chapter, but I've seen this before, and then obviously a lot of growing has gone on since then. So you got a 19-year-old. What's that?
I said the quad shocks days.
Yeah, for sure. Exactly. So you got 19 years of PDGA tournament play. Your first event, your first PDGA event was Mookie's Cup, not yours, 2004, and you played AM2. And then your first PDGA win was 2004 Junior 4 Boys AM Worlds. What is that? Okay, Paul, I know you did this research, but what does that mean? Junior 4, the IV.
10 and under.
10 and under. Oh, okay.
Is it every 2 years? Like, so junior 3 is 12?
Yeah, there's 10 and under, 13 and under, 16 and under, 19 and under.
Okay.
All right. So 2004, you won the 10 and under AM Worlds, Junior AM Worlds, excuse me. And then AM2.
Oh, don't worry about that.
What's that?
Don't worry about that.
Oh, all right.
So I did the 10 and under division twice, the 13 and under division, and then the 19 and under division. I played 19 and under when I was 13.
That's incredible.
Wow.
When I was first looking at this and I'm looking at the record, I'm like, how does he? When I started, you win an AM tournament. Everybody around you tells you to move up, and then I remembered, oh yeah, he was a kid. You can't tell a 9-year-old now you got to play pro, son. Although I imagine there might have been.
Probably had Super Dave looking out for him back in those days, going, "Hey, leave him alone, leave him alone." There was probably a few people up there in Hot Point that took you under their wing, wasn't there?
Oh yeah. Dave Gilstrap, Mookie, Brett Byerly, Tim Spurt. I mean, all the Ocala Club disc golf guys were awesome to me back in the day. Got to thank them a lot for getting me involved in the sport and the club, and my dad as well. So,
there's something really heartwarming about the fact that we've got a lot of stories of young boys going to the course. And in Stokely's case, he didn't have a dad, so he's looking for father figures. But in a lot of other guys' cases, their dads were part of their lives on the course, and yet still you've got this confraternity of older male golfers who kind of stand around you and protect you and show you, you got a bunch of inherited uncles there now. It must have been at times made growing up fairly easy.
Yeah, I was, this little kid running around playing with grown men, and I felt right at home. It was, looking back, probably a little interesting dynamic, but I felt, like they were my friends, like I was going to school or something like that. It was a really welcoming environment. So it made growing up playing the sport awesome for me.
Well, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. I think there's also obviously that constant common thread throughout the sport of family. And I think that it's just like all of us older guys, that's one thing with Nolan. I mean, we all looked out for Nolan. Not that he really needed it, but at times we did. We're like, hey, he's a kid, leave him alone, And it's, I mean, none of the upstanding people in this game are going to allow anything like that anything bad to happen to any of our younger players, for sure.
Yeah. But it's interesting that your story and Nate Doss's story are very similar in that you're young, rambunctious boys, and taking you out to the golf course was a way to just run the energy out of you, run you down a little bit so that you're slowed down. It took a mountain in Nate's case growing up on De La Piega, but for you, how far exactly away was your house from Ocala?
I would take my bike there regularly when my parents could drive me. So I was, just a stone's throw away from the course. That's how I actually got into the sport, because when my family moved to the neighborhood in North Carolina, my dad was walking around and just found it. and he saw people playing, didn't know what the sport was at the time, but it was like, hey, I'll grab some frisbees and go take my son and run some energy out of him. So kind of snowballed from there.
So do you recall, obviously you started with just regular frisbees, but it probably didn't take too long before the locals was, hey, no, you got to play with these things. They fly better. Do you remember what the first disc that you really like connected with and loved throwing?
I still have it. It's this Red Chains AVR, and it's worn down.
Nice.
It's worn down to like a mid, like maybe the thickness of a rock, because I would throw it down my street in the neighborhood, just, playing neighborhood disc golf. And I don't know how I never broke it or lost it, but it's definitely the disc that I've had for the longest amount of time.
Wow, there's definite charm on that one for sure.
Nice. Yeah. Factored by yourself, not by the factory.
Yeah.
And one of the questions that I asked Nolan, and obviously any other kid that grows up on the course, is how much money did you hustle as side games from people on the course?
I was going out and playing the Monday singles, the Wednesday doubles, the Sunday singles and doubles. I was playing all 4, local club events a week, and then I was out there selling my discs that I didn't use anymore on the side. So yeah, I was hustling on the course a little bit.
Nice.
Nice.
Anybody just show up looking to play, and you like, I'll play with you, mister. How about $1 a hole? Any of those instances?
No, I didn't really do that.
Okay.
After to the club events. But.
So
Plus, I was always out there, so I couldn't hide. Everybody knew who I was.
Let's go right to the Worlds.
Okay.
I'm sorry you broke up there, B. I didn't hear you.
We're gonna transition to his Worlds experience as a junior.
Sounds good. All right. So your junior career, the Worlds, the Worlds is his oyster. You began your PDGA career in 2004 as a 9-year-old, playing AM2 at your first ever recorded tournament, Mookie's Cup, Not Yours, as we covered a little bit ago. Do you remember that event? What do you remember about it?
I think it was cold and rainy.
Yeah, those days stand out.
Yeah. It was always in February. I think it was never good weather for that tournament.
Well, so you played 12 junior events and you won 11 of them, and you currently hold the highest win percentage of anybody that we've interviewed so far at 91.97%, or no, excuse me, 91.67%. That's pretty impressive.
Very impressive.
For all my events, or for that's got to be just juniors? Huh?
That's just juniors.
Yeah, that's just juniors. Yeah, it's definitely not all your events. No, because I mean, you had some non-cashes last year. I remember.
Yeah.
We'll get to that part later.
Out there, yeah.
So what was it like? First of all, you go to your first Worlds experience, you're 9 years old, you travel halfway across the country from High Point to Des Moines, but this is the combined Worlds too.
It was incredible. Yeah, there was 1,000 people, I think, at this tournament.
Did you know what to expect when you got there? I mean, what did you expect cornfields and flat courses?
I was 9 years old. I hadn't barely traveled as too far out of North Carolina in my memory at that point, but I showed up. I had played a couple local events in North Carolina prior, and show up in the parking lot, have your players meeting, maybe 80, 90 people are there. So transition into that to going to see the World Championships for my first time. And at the time, I believe it was the largest World Championships that there had been in the history.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. At the time.
It was a production. I remember the players meeting, they brought in like a marching band, and, they had it all catered and everything. And I was just blown away as a little kid at this event. I was like, wow, this is pretty cool, especially for
everybody was there. I mean, it was very well attended. That was I look back at that one, and I don't think that anybody that has any complaints about that was all personal issues. I mean, the event was smooth. Everything was on point. I mean, you can't complain. The Des Moines courses are off the charts. I mean, like, not just a few of them, like every one of them's awesome. And and Becky Z. I mean, if you know Becky Z, then all you got to do is say Becky Z, and that's it. You know.
Yeah. Now, did you do the field events at that Worlds?
Yeah, every year. I do them every
Okay.
single year.
Okay, so you would have been throwing while I was spinning music there. I was in the band shell or whatever that was. So that we would have been in the same space. Store kept running over to tell me to turn it down because it was too loud because they couldn't hear the distance markers. So there's an early picture. I don't know if you can see that, but there's a well,
Oh, it's coming in and out.
There's Becky's Alec right there.
Yeah.
That's one of my
Awesome.
cherished photos right there.
Yeah, I don't have any photos of her, but with her, but man, I got some great memories with her. And that event, you know, like I can't say enough good stuff about that event. And that club's awesome. I've always had great times in Des Moines. I'm looking forward to going back again at some point.
Now
I remember, I was
Sorry.
gonna say, I remember the distance contest at that Worlds and watching Kristen Sandstrom throw. You know, he was the record holder and had been the
Right.
record holder at the time. So going out and watching him throw a Valkyrie at the time or something like that, close to or over 600 feet, it was definitely inspiring.
Okay. So it wasn't just that you grew up hearing the name Christian Sandstrom, but you actually got to see. He was like maybe was he your first distance idol?
Him and I'd have to also go back to my high point days. Say Dave Gilstrap, he's the first person I ever saw throw a 360. So
Nice.
yeah.
Nice.
I didn't know he was doing that. You know, I attended one of Stokely's clinics at Ocala at High Point.
Yeah.
When Jerry and Marie lived in Greensboro.
I always heard about the legends of Scott Stokely coming to Ocala and throwing over the trees on
Yeah,
hole 6
I
of
was
the
there
course.
for that, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, he crushed it. Like we never found that disc that went over them trees. Yeah, that was something else. I definitely Jerry. So Jerry Gotcher, I don't know if you ever met him, but he lived in Greensboro for quite a while and then moved away to Pittsburgh. But he was the one that got me into the game. And so, you know, when they moved to Greensboro, I went and visited because, you know, him and his wife are both two of my best friends, even still to this day. But we just happened to be in town when Stokely was coming through, and yeah, he threw a sidearm up over them trees too. And it was just like, I was like, yeah, I don't think I'm ever going to throw that far. I'm going to maybe throw twice and still not throw that far, maybe. Yeah, that was
So
something else.
One of the things that people talk about your first Junior Worlds title is the fact that you won by almost 100 strokes. It was a small field, I think 3 or 4, but you got to feel for Mark Burnett because he was a double-digit victim to you 2 years in a row. You preyed on him 99 strokes per win, and that must have been hard.
Yeah,
he doesn't play anymore, I heard.
Oh no.
No, he does. I think he does play.
I'm just kidding. I couldn't resist.
He plays pro now, I think.
Cool.
I think he's over 1,000 rated, actually.
Where's he from?
I think he was from Michigan, wasn't he?
Yeah. I'm not sure where, but definitely from Michigan.
Interesting.
So you had a great experience in Des Moines. You go back, where was 2005, the Junior Worlds?
Flagstaff.
And
yeah.
That was a completely different, you're up in elevation now, thin air, potentially wild weather changing action going on there. How was your experience from one Worlds to the other? I mean, you still the same result, 99 stroke win, but it must have demanded different things from you.
I was still just running around like a kid all over the place. Like, wow, this place looks so much different than what I'm used to. I didn't really factor in the elevation or anything like that. I just went out there and, you know, threw my disc like I knew how to do, and ended up repeating almost the same result from the previous.
Crazy, 99 strokes. That's just amazing. That I remember that Worlds. I came from Allentown 2 weeks before that, and so I made my way almost all the way across the country from upper to the lower, upper right to the lower left, and I was on crutches because I blew out my calf with my very good friend Paul Bellier in the swimming pool in Ottawa.
That's right. Yeah, a
So
cannonball gone very wrong.
very wrong.
Time, huh?
Yeah, well, I just jumped and slipped and popped my calf in the process. It was a real kind of a slick surface, and so I spent like 10 weeks on tour on crutches, and I vividly remember running into your dad in the hall, and he goes, "What happened? Explain it to me. Tell me what you've done and why, and blah blah blah." And he goes, "Do you mind if I examine it?" And I was like, "No, not at all. Of course, I'd love it if you'd examine it, you know." And so like Kevin McCoy was my doctor, so to speak. Me and Kevin were not touring in the same vehicle, but we were hitting the same spots. And he saw me right after it happened, and he goes, "Hey, you know what? You need to be on crutches, and you need to wrap it." And I was like, and I think you might have even been with us up there in Ottawa, but I could be wrong about that. But he goes, definitely put a wrap on it, and you know, don't cut off the circulation, but keep it tight and keep it compressed, and stay off it. And so when your dad examined it, he did some poking and some prodding, and you know, asked me a bunch of questions. And he goes, "Man," he goes, "Kevin gave you a good diagnosis and a good, a good, some prescription for the crutches and the wrap." And it, he said the thing with these kind of injuries, people will start walking when they feel better. And I go, "You tell me how long to stay off it, and I will." And he told me, and I did, and it hasn't been a problem since. But it was interesting. I was one of my memories with your dad.
Yeah, he's helped quite a few disc golfers out throughout.
Yeah, I'm sure. And he asked me if I needed him anything or whatever, and I was like, "No, I think I'm good." I mean, it was already probably a month down the road by the time I saw him.
So sticking back with Flagstaff, this is your first world doubles title, with the only time you played with this guy, because all of your other times that you played world doubles was with another guy, Andrew Coggin. And to me, just as a little digression, the name Coggin and Wiggins sounds like something you'd find in Diagon Alley, like an apothecary shop, or if I'm looking for a new robe for Hogwarts next year. But I think it's a great doubles team. But talk to us about this. Is you obviously you've been very familiar with doubles play from the time you were 6, but how was it playing as a team unit in the World Championships? Did it feel? And how did you meet this guy? Did you know him?
It was well, I can't remember off the top of my head who I played with in
It's
2000.
Joshua Trunk.
Joshua Trunk. I'm pretty sure my dad probably reached out to some of the other junior players' dads playing and got us linked up. And I played doubles regularly with the club, so I was just out there playing doubles with another kid, which was a cool experience because there wasn't a lot of junior players around, and I certainly didn't have that opportunity in my home course because there wasn't any other kids playing my age there. So playing with another junior player my age was a fun experience. And then moving forward, like the following year, I played with Andrew Coggin. He was one of my best friends growing up. And we would play on a daily basis, every week at least, pretty much until I moved out of High Point.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
I hadn't seen Andrew in a long time.
You picked up 4 wins with them, 4 in a row. 2006, your first time teaming up with them, you took second, and then you didn't look back. So you guys obviously gel as friends and gel as players. Because sometimes you could be friends with somebody, but just play lousy together,
Oh no, we would kill it, and he would show up, like play his best golf too when we were playing doubles. So I knew when we were going in that we were both going to confidently play and probably come out on top. So that was a really fun experience. Yeah.
So title after title of any of those 2004 through 2010, which one, aside from the first one, the first win, which one stands out as, and maybe Des Moines stands out as the greatest experience, but is there anything else that kind of captured that experience for you, or reached that high point for you?
I would say when I played the 19 and under when I was 13 years old, I can't remember. I think it was Kalamazoo, Michigan. I think that's where it was. And James Cole is who ended up coming in second place. But that year I kind of stepped outside my comfort zone, playing out of my age bracket a little bit. And I was actually down to James Cole for most of the tournament and ended up turning it around. I think I played two 10-20 rated rounds the day before the semifinals. There was 2 rounds in one day, and I was 13 shooting 10-20. It was crazy to make up.
Wow.
I had a 9-stroke deficit, and I'll never forget when I finally caught him. He threw an ace the next hole, and I went back back to second.
Wow, really?
He was leading for like 6 rounds, and I caught him, and then he aced the next hole, take the lead again. And I mean, it came down to the finals pretty much. But yeah, that one.
So when he
was
hit that
cool.
ace, he was able to maintain after that? Because a lot of times people hit an ace and they crumble.
No, he maintained, yeah. And I just had to inch ahead after that pretty much. I put a little bit of space on him in the finals, but yeah, it was neck and neck there at the end.
Wow, that's amazing.
That is amazing. I mean, especially because the PDJ rounds don't always, or at least the ratings detail, the round detail, the information. They're great at presenting some information, but getting that round by round, hole by hole update, you don't know the drama of it if you're just looking from the cold fact of history.
Oh yeah,
you know,
scorecard doesn't take pictures.
Yeah, well, and it kind of does now, but you know.
Yeah, now it does.
It at least tells a story. Even on the AM level, they're doing some televising on that down there as well. So that's pretty amazing where we're at. So that pretty much, I mean, that's a lot to cover, but that pretty much wraps up your AM or your junior world titles. Your amateur career stretches from 04 to 10, but there's a whole lot of that's all kind of intertwined as well. You know, I mean, you played a lot of those junior worlds in those same time frames. So while you were establishing a record of dominance in the junior categories at the PDGA AM Worlds, that most likely will never be broken.
I can't see anyone else winning 5 junior titles. I just can't. You know what I mean?
Well, I don't know if anybody's going to stick with it as long. I mean, I got a friend local here whose daughters won 2, and one was under 10, and then one was 12 and under, I think. Is that the way it goes, or is it 13 and under?
13.
Yeah, I think it's 13. At least that's what it was when I was playing. 10, 13, 16, 19.
And to be honest with you, I would have worked with him this past week had we done the gig here that I did in Florida. And so I don't even know what his daughter did do this summer. She might have picked up another one. Although there's a fair bit. It's not as, I think the competition in those lower divisions is a lot greater than it used to be when you were there, from what I understand.
Oh,
like
yeah.
Bridster's son, Leighton, went and played, and he's got a pack of buddies. Like they even show up at USCGC, like during the putting contests and stuff. Them kids were there every day trying to qualify again and again and again. And it was great. It's really cool to see. So I think that's a little bit different now, but it's still 5. I don't know. That's a tough one.
Yeah. But like Mace intimated, you did. I think your first year playing in the PDGA record shows the flexibility of your potential playing. You played in a pro event, an M1 or an M2 event, and a junior event. And so that period of 2004 to 2010, you were kind of playing where you wanted. And it's really only starting in 2008 that you start playing pro as well. And, you know, really started to actually, well, when I was looking at this, and I guess I'm just going to skip ahead here, Mace, but you started turning down cash. You got your first pro win in 2008, when you're 13.
13, yep.
And you declined cash for 3 seasons so that you could keep going to the Worlds. Do you ever wonder how much cash you actually declined?
I have no idea.
That'd be
No
something
clue.
for the stats geeks out there.
But you know what I did? In lieu of cash, you could take merch, right? So I was, you know, there was 11-time rocks and 11-time T-birds and Firebirds. So I was just stacking those up, and I sold eventually. So who knows if I came out ahead or not?
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
Awesome. So I just want to take you back to 2008 again. You have 8 wins, including the U.S. Doubles Championships. Pretty prestigious event there. Pretty big field. And you go to the Bowling Green Open, where there's 257 AM1 players, and you take 7th. How does that feel? you travel way out of state to go to that. And now you're playing with some pretty big fish there.
Yeah, and that was, the biggest amateur tournament in the world at the time. So that was a really cool experience, battling against hundreds of people during an event. And
that is a massive field, 257 people. Holy cow.
Yeah.
There's
I
probably
remember-
not that many people that weren't in that field that can say they've done that. And honestly, in the game, because I mean, think about how often, like, I don't remember too many, if any, pro divisions that were 257, that were over 200, really. I mean, I'm not saying it never happened, but
Certainly
where?
nothing outside of Emporia, that's for sure.
Right. And USDGC, I think that we peaked at 194 one year, maybe, or 192.
Right.
And like, I can remember Jonathan saying all the way back then, this is way too many people. And like, he said it for a while, and I'm pretty sure he's comfortable now with what he's got, but he wouldn't mind dropping a few too, just because, I mean, we're really pushing it time, for daylight.
So just to continue on with your AM career here, let's just talk about 2010. This is your final swing on the circuit as an AM, and you play 5 events to finish off your AM career, 5 wins. We'll start with the Dogwood Classic. For how far is it from the High Point to Raleigh?
It's like an hour and a half. Yeah, it's not too
So
far.
close enough for it to be kind of local for you then, right?
Yeah, playing with the same guys, play with every weekend if I'm over there.
How'd that feel to put the seal on that deal in 2010?
So the Crosstown Classic was the tournament. If you won the Dogwood Crosstown in advance, you were destined to win AM Worlds. If you were a North Carolina AM player,
Is
So
that right?
that was the one you had to get to have the confidence going into the World Championships. So yeah, there's a list of North Carolina names that have won the Dogwood Crosstown and then went on to win the AM Worlds. So that was
Wow.
one I had to get.
And
and then-
you knew that before you started the tournament.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So you set yourself
Oh,
up for-
well, the thing you're not taking into consideration, B, is like that like, he's talking about like easily the second richest area in talent after California. I mean,
know.
all up in the Carolinas and everything like that. And like, then on top of it, there's a huge group of homegrown guys that don't play any of that other stuff anymore either. So I mean, it's like and there's that out in California as well. So it's, like, that's pretty stout. But I'm looking at this and it says, it says right below that, that you won against 146 people in Bowling Green and 148 people in Michigan, right? U.S. amateurs, and that's a toboggan course, right? Easily one of the toughest courses that you're going to play anywhere. I mean, it's got mountains and it's got the North Carolina woods and all that kind of stuff as well. So I mean, to me, I think those two are even more impressive than winning the Crosstown. But
the Crosstown, the competition, the amount of players in the competition wasn't matched to those other AM events, but it still had, you're the best of the best in North Carolina in the AM division there. So
yeah, and I'm not discounting it. I'm just saying, I was just pointing out that was the one you mentioned over the other two, and obviously those are the guys you were duking it out with on a regular basis.
Oh yeah.
Part of maybe unfamiliarity was a nice comfort in those other two events to some degree too. Although I imagine you met a few of those guys at Bowling Green the year before, and by the time you hit that one and then went to the AM again, you were certainly not an unknown.
Well, one of the great delights of looking through the historical record is seeing some of the names that were on the list, and certainly some of the names that you beat. And there at the U.S. Amateur Championships, of the 147 other people that you beat, was one Richard Wysocki that you beat by 10 strokes that weekend. So, I think it's
Might not be as easy now.
Maybe.
Yeah. Probably one of the last times I beat him too.
But let's go right on to it. You then go on to the 2010 AM Worlds. You play AM 1, 194 people in that division, and as the Dogwood Crosstown prophecies maintain, You're the champ. Talk to us about taking that title.
That was definitely something I had been striving for my entire amateur career, especially coming from like a legacy of North Carolina players that have won it. Year before me, Matt Keats won it, and I came in second place to him. Matt Keats, I had competed with growing up playing disc golf. He was such a great person and a great player. He's passed away since, RIP. But that was such a sentimental, comeback after that. And looking back, I was probably a bagger considering I got second place and went back and still played AM Worlds after getting a second place finish. But I was also 14 and going to 15 years old, and I just wanted to win. I had to win. So I went back and I got the win. And it was a title that I'm proud of. So.
Well, one of the obvious things that I can see here is you spend 6-7 seasons crisscrossing the country. Probably your dad put you in the not the WinStar, that was a different vehicle, but traveling and competing, and that just shows you your drive, your focus, your will to want to succeed. Because a lot of times people will maybe win once or twice, like you say, Mace, and maybe fall away from it. But
or find some other interest, even.
But that's like especially for us from this historical perspective, it's just truly one of the great narratives of the history of the sport is your rise, your absolute dominance at those levels. It's incredible. And not to take away from your professional development and your professional record, which is still pretty good. I mean, I call it here swimming with the sharks, but you have 188 pro events, 27 pro wins, for almost a 15% career winning percentage. And that's pretty robust, especially at a time when you're playing against still someone like Paul Macbeth coming up, or Ricky Wysocki coming up, Barsby, all these guys that are serious top 10 tour players. You cut your chops with those guys too.
So and then even on the weekends, playing the local events, I'm playing against Brian Schweberger back in the day, Michael Johansson, Barry Schultz moved to North Carolina, Cam Todd was there, Jeremy Colin before he went on tour, So it was really mecca disc golf, and it was a perfect place to grow up playing the sport, getting introduced to the higher level of competition there. So yeah, it was it wasn't easy to secure wins even back when you were in the off season playing back at home.
Right.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, that's some tough competition you were up against, without a doubt, and some great people too. I mean, those folks are awesome. So
go ahead, Mace.
We stomped each other again there. Well, so I was just going to jump right in there on the next line. Your first ever PDJ professional event, you played your first year in 2004, the Oak Hollow Open, and we mentioned that a little bit, but you were 9.
Yeah, that one. Mookie said that if you play pro, I'll let you pick who you get to play with. So I got to pick the card, and that was so cool.
Who did you pick?
Oh my gosh, I think Barry Schultz was there. I'm pretty sure I played with Super Dave. I can't remember the rest of the card right now. So I was 9.
That's still good though.
I'm pretty sure those two were on the card.
Nice. Now, you've mentioned some names already, but from when you first kind of started setting your sights on becoming better in the game and hanging out, who were some of the early people that you thought, like the pro level players that you kind of patterned your game after, or idolized, or tried to look up to as mentors?
I would say Ken Climo was my idol as a kid in disc golf. He was the greatest. So I thought that he was the god of disc golf. I wanted to go out and win like him one day.
Yeah, I hear you, man. I mean, he was the machine. He was the one.
Yeah.
I still want to go out and win like him one day.
Maybe one day when we grow up, eh, Mace?
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. So you So 06, you played 2 MPO events. Your best was 11th at Creekside Splashdown. In 07, you played 1, and then in 08, you really busted out and you played 12 open events. The
So let me
first
just
win.
add. Let me just add as well. At the same time, you played, I think, 19 AM events in 2008, as well as the world. You're 13 years old and you're playing a rigorous traveling schedule, more than most pros can handle. It's mind blowing to think about.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
he was 13.
got to thank my dad for that. I don't know how he had the time to bring me around to these tournaments. My dad and also local players that would, let this 13-year-old kid hop in their car for the weekend and put him up somewhere. So definitely had a lot of support that made that possible.
And I love it thinking about 2008 there. You get your first win at the North Carolina Flying Disc Championships. You decline the cash, and then the next morning you're in what, grade 8 math class or studying grammar or something. You just kicked, how many people were in that field? I don't even know, but all older men. You beat them.
I gotta throw a jab here too.
Okay.
Jeremy Colin, he was there. So that first pro win I got, I had to beat Jeremy too.
That's awesome.
Nice. And you were 13.
That's really cool.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, me and Jeremy came up playing AM. He got, he progressed a little bit quicker and moved pro before me, but I got so many good times and such a good history playing disc golf with him.
What's your age difference between you and him?
I think 8 or 10 years.
Okay.
Yeah,
Nice.
something between there.
He was the one that you bought the Ford Windstar with. I think there was a third person you bought the Ford Windstar with, and you went out. That was your touring vehicle when you were full-time pros, right?
Yeah, it was me, Jeremy, and Josh Moody. He was a local North Carolina guy, and to show a difference in times, this was 2013. We bought a Ford Windstar for $2,000, and Jeremy and myself were pretty good pros at the time. We weren't podium finishing every event. It was 30 in the world at the time, and traveling in a $2,000 minivan. Now everybody has these Dodge Sprinters and RVs, like pretty nice vehicles that you can suitably tour in and stay. But
Right.
we were rocking the van and couch surfing. So crazy to think that was 10 years ago.
It's even crazier to think that you already mentioned it earlier that you were leaving and going and staying with guys on, at the age of 13, 14, and 15, you were already couch surfing. And I got 10 years of that under my belt, and it was some of the best experiences of my whole adult life. And the only people I was even considering doing that with was my cousins when I was in my 13, 14, 15-year-old range. You know what I mean? So I think that's awesome.
So I just want to take you back to 2010. You go to the Worlds, the AM Worlds, you win the AM Worlds, you tie the bow, you seal it up. Okay, that's the official last putt of your amateur career. And then you turn around and what was your first cash win after that?
It was the Midtown Chiropractic Classic, I think, in Raleigh.
Was that in Raleigh? And you got fourth place? Is that it? Fourth place at $228?
I can't remember what I placed, but I remember that was the first cash. I think Robert Leonard was the TD of that tournament, and you got to hand me my first cash. I got a picture of it somewhere.
Nice.
That was a cool feeling.
I've been adjusted at Midtown Chiropractic.
Nice.
Yep.
Do you remember what you did with that?
Oh, I have no idea. I probably bought like some fishing stuff or something. I don't know.
That's awesome. But you did, as a 15-year-old in 2010, you cleared almost $2,000 in winnings from PDGA events. As a 15-year-old, I think I was working on I was flipping fries and boiling burgers in my local establishment at 15, making $3.25 an hour. So that's some nice cake as a 15-year-old, eh?
Oh yeah, I was collecting discs too. I love collecting discs, so my money would either go to collecting discs or kayak fishing stuff or whatever. But yeah, I ended up having a huge collection of discs by the time I went to school that, I just left at my dad's house. That but I ended up selling.
Everybody does that, dude. Everybody leaves stuff at their parents' house. There's still a couple things under the stairs of my parents' house, and I never even lived in that house that belonged to me. They're like, once you get this out of here, I was like, it's doing fine right where it's at.
Yeah.
So let's
Climate controlled.
skip to 2011, shall we, Mace?
Yeah. So in 2011, you turned pro and you never looked back. 2011, you were runner-up to Ricky Wysocki for Rookie of the Year, and I don't know how close that was, but I already saw what you did to him as an AM, so it had to have been. You guys must have been just fighting it out neck and neck.
He actually blew me out of the water.
Oh, did he?
Oh.
Much, yeah. I think he made a run at an NT his rookie year. I think the PDJ championship in Georgia, he made a run at winning it that year, his rookie year. But yeah, he had me by a little bit of a margin.
But still, you played 29 MPO events that year. You only missed the cash twice. That's pretty damn good for your first year as a rookie pro. I think the standards sometimes from year to year for Rookie of the Year, I mean, obviously depending on generational talent, but I was just doing some look at that 2 years ago, the Rookie of the Year, and the numbers weren't anywhere near as boisterous as yours. So some pretty good names together in that same class.
Absolutely, yeah. The talent is, it's. I mean, I've said it before. It's hard out there now. I could only missed 2 cashes back then playing good, solid 1,000+ rated golf. Different story now.
Yeah. That's definitely true.
Let's look at some of those notables from that 2011. You take 7th at the Atlanta Open, and that's always a big event. I mean, Atlanta is somehow drawn. It's a huge draw for talent from the whole area. Obviously, people from Florida, the Carolinas, all come down and merge on that. How did that feel, taking a top 10 finish in Atlanta?
That was cool because there's a lot of big dogs there. I mean, I was playing against some of the better pros in the country, especially on the East Coast at that tournament. So that made me feel like, hey, I can kind of hang a little bit now,
Right.
A little bit different feeling.
You go to Brent and you take 12th there. Again, a major, I don't know if that was an NT back then, certainly a Super Tour.
Yeah, it was. Back
And that
then, for
always
sure.
draws huge names too. And you acquit yourself quite well at that event.
Yeah, I vaguely remember that one. I've been to the Brent Hamrick a few times, but I've played pretty decent there. So that was, like I said, starting to finish higher in these higher level tournaments, kind of breaking in as a professional player, once again, new feeling, kind of getting my feet on the ground with these good players.
Well, obviously you were feeling comfortable with yourself because you took 11th at the Worlds, set your first professional Worlds. Having had such a huge volume of experience with AM Worlds, how did the Pro Worlds experience compare?
I think I was so driven and motivated at the time that, I still remember, like, that was my entire world up to that point is, hey, I want to be on top one day. So I was practicing every single day. I was doing what it took to, finish higher and higher at every tournament. Finishing 11th at that level, I felt like I can do this. And that was ended up being my highest finish I've ever had at a professional world championships. But it was an incredible feeling.
Nice.
It's totally respectable too. I mean, cracking in the top 20 in any big major like that is certainly an accomplishment, but being able to knock on the door of the top 10 like that's something else for sure. So you followed that up with a 17th at the Vibram and then a 19th at the PDGA Championship, and 27th in the National Tour Series. And I don't see anything about USDGC in 2011 there. Did you not play that year?
I think
Or
I don't
was
know.
that that was the
Performance?
that was the performance year,
Oh,
probably.
I played performance.
Did you?
Yeah.
You got the win just like everybody else.
Yeah. Actually, the performance, I did really well. I remember me and Barry Schultz were two of the actual pros playing it that we made a good run against our rating, however the format was, that we ended up finishing pretty good, but nowhere near winning, but
Interesting.
respectable for performance.
It's an interesting experiment, but I think in terms of prestigious event and the prestige of playing well at that tournament, it comes down to the USDGC. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. I think it will maybe run another one on another weekend, but you got to have the real deal.
Yeah.
One division, one champion, no handicap.
There was I'm not even going to get into it, but there was a lot behind that. The reasoning why that happened the way that it did, and the reason why it was gonna. There was a threat of the event going away for a year, but then there was also so much support from York County that could not have an event that year, so it had to happen in some form or fashion. And that's, I mean, for lack of a much longer winded explanation, that's part of it.
Sure.
A big part of it. So, but that's interesting that I was like, wait a minute, where's the USDGC that year? I'm sure he would have been there,
Yeah.
And so, but then, moving on to 12, you had 19 events and you cashed in every one of them, which in itself is very impressive. But you had 5 wins, 2 seconds, 3/3, 2 fourths, and 2 fifths. So that's 2, 4, 7, 9.
Oh, he's doing math.
12 of your 19 events, you're in the top 5. That's amazing, dude.
Yeah, that's consistency.
Took 21st of the world, 15th at the Brent, and 27th at USDGC. And honestly, 27th isn't horrible at USDGC, especially, getting into that era and that range, man. There was a lot more people in 2012 that could win the USDGC than there was in, just 10 years previous, or 8 years previous, or even 5 years previous to that. That's one of the things that I always watch is like how many people can still have a chance on the 3rd day, and then how many people still have a chance on the 4th day. And I always love it when there's a lot of people, when there's 8 or 10 people going into the 4th day, which doesn't happen very often. It usually, that number shrinks, usually going from the 3rd day to the 4th day. But that's one of the things that I always personally look for is like, hey, how many people still have a chance? How many people are still in the hunt? Is there a reason to look at the chase card? And when it is, it's even better, for a spectator, especially.
Oh yeah, it makes it that much more exciting.
Without
the phones and the live score now, you can pop it up. Oh, maybe I need to go back to the chase card and see what's going on. Somebody's making it fun.
Well, and they even talked about that. Was it? I think Cole Redallen was talking about that after the round when he won the weekend before last, where he said when he won at Ledgestone, they were asking him. He goes, "Man, I didn't know anything up until like hole 12." He said, I managed just to not look, not pay attention, not know, not see anything. And then at hole 12, I kind of had to look, and then I came to realize, and I don't even remember what it was between then, but like that just alone, that statement from a person in their 20s this day and age, and they didn't know what was going on. I mean, like I see guys whipping phones out, like they walk off the tee pad, and before they're touching dirt, they're whipping their phone out. Sometimes on these broadcasts, maybe it's not quite that bad, but it sure seems like it. And they're paying big attention. And, I mean, I can't say that I wouldn't be. I mean, I'm addicted to my device just like the next guy.
Yeah, that's an interesting impact that the phone has made on disc golf tournaments.
Yeah, we might have to do a study on that.
One funny thing I got to add on to that is I played my first Pro Tour event last year. And, I had been playing locally in Louisiana. I hadn't been traveling as much during my school career. So when I go out to the Pro Tour event, they're like, "Oh, you're going to keep score from your phone." I was like, "What? Give me a scorecard."
It's the best thing ever as a tournament director, not having to stand up there and check 90 or 140 or ever how many people you have, checking the scorecards.
Understand the, logistics behind it, but now you got to keep your UDisc, you got to keep PDGA, and then I don't think you're required to always keep a scorecard. But I personally want to keep a scorecard when I'm playing.
There is a new rule coming, where I think next year that everybody is required to keep score on the card. It's not just going to be one person, but I haven't looked at that. I've been busy doing other stuff, but I've seen a little bit of it talking about a little bit of the discussion talking about those new rules.
Well,
And
those
so
are
that's
those are rules that are never going to affect your life or my life, Mace.
no, I run a tournament still, so they
Oh
will
yeah,
they will
I run
affect me,
tournaments,
but
but not sanctioned events.
yeah, unless I go to Japan again.
So speaking of Japan, that's a great segue. 2013, you play 28 events, missed the cash once, and you go to Japan. And is this true? You only went there for a week? You go to the Hokkaido Open?
I went. Oh no! So one of my best friends growing up moved to Tokyo, for college, or before college, for high school and college. And when I graduated high school, I made a trip over there to go see him. But before I made the trip, I kind of talked to him and I said, hey, I'm going over to Japan. Can we do some type of event, or, are you interested in having some promotional stuff somewhere while I'm over there? I'm open to it. And wound up doing like a distance clinic over there and going to the Hokkaido Open. So that was, oh my gosh, that was, I think out of all the places I've traveled, Japan is number one on such a coming out of high school going over there.
What was
Yeah,
your biggest takeaway? What was the biggest thing that you absolutely loved about Japanese culture or Japan itself from an impressionable, what are you, you're 18 years old. This is the first time flying outside of the United States for you, right?
I'd been to Mexico, but Cancun, so that doesn't really count. So I would say just the culture shock of seeing, different cultural norms and how they interact with each other. Very respectful as a society, very respectful of their city and environment and everything, and just very welcoming group of people. And also traveling to Hokkaido, I had never been to a place where it was so it was just native Japanese people for the most part. There weren't
not English, not American,
yeah.
not
so when
anything
this is really when it hit me. When I hopped off of we had to fly there and then take a train. When we hopped off of the train and there's kids at this train station, they all pointed. They were like, a white person. I was like,
I went to visit a similar circumstance. Well, except I wasn't in touch with Innova, but I had a friend who was teaching, a very good friend who was teaching English in Tokyo, and I went over there for a 3-week event or time, and I ended up actually playing in a tournament. While I was there, I met Sam Ferens, and we're going to talk to him in a couple of weeks. But for me, it was just amazing to see. It was like I was like a bit of a museum exhibit or a zoo exhibit or something, like the amount of people that would just openly stare with their mouths open, or like you say, point. It's, on streetcars or on subways, people were taking photos with me because, let's get a photo with the big tall white guy.
Yeah. I felt like a giant over there. I mean, I'm 6 foot tall, I'm a little bit above average height, but over there I felt, I was a head and shoulders above everybody. So it was just a very unique experience at the time for me.
And were you throwing 150 class at, I guess, obviously.
Oh yeah.
Was that your first experience with 150 class?
I was throwing blizzards before then. So I had a whole bag full of blizzards that I brought over there.
But putting, the touch game around the basket, that's different though.
Oh yeah, that stuff's tough.
I would say the only adjustment I had was throwing those light disc and wind. Release point was never really an issue changing weights for me, but the wind, you can't make them more overstable past what they can be at that weight.
So I played Japan Open in 14, and I have a completely different story to tell about that. Where we stayed at the resort, there was an amusement park right next door. And the first 3-4 days that we were there, the park was operational. Maybe it was only 2 or 3 days, But if you got in after 4:30, you could ride everything for like $20. And so we went over there, and the first ride I got on, it was one of those roller coasters where your feet hang off the bottom, and I fit in it fine. The next ride was another roller coaster, and I was a little bit less comfortable, but I still fit. The third ride, I don't remember what it was. Oh, it was one of those sticks where they throw you up in the air and you bounce. And that was the last thing I fit in. The next ride, I got into another car, and they don't like here, they have the open nose cones, but there was a solid fiberglass wall where I got in the car, so I didn't know where to put my feet. And the guy goes, just cross your legs. And I'm like, yeah, and then I'm going to get thrown into my legs and I'm going to break them both. I was like, that's it, I'm done. And nothing else fit. I didn't fit anymore. Like, I tried a couple more things, and I was too big for the rides. They weren't built to accommodate anybody my size. And it was pretty funny, but then I went and tried to get water at the ice cream stand, and nobody could tell me how to say water in Japanese, so I just got ice cream.
So that 2013, your first trip to Japan, you went back for the Japan Open in 2014, the year that Mace is talking. And when I was creeping your Instagram, I saw you had taken a photo of the tuna auction.
Yeah.
And that's I've seen a couple of shows. There's one show in Canada where this chef here, he did a show where he caught, or was a part of a crew that caught, a salmon off of the coast of Nova Scotia, and then he went with the salmon to the Tokyo auction, and then eventually went to a sushi restaurant in Tokyo. And I mean, that's a pretty amazing journey to go from.
That is an amazing journey.
But for you've been an angler and a lover of the sea for a long time, since you were a kid. That must have been an amazing highlight for you, going to that auction as a side trip in
Oh yeah, I think it's the biggest fish market in the world. It's called Skiji, and it's just this vast expanse of these vendors with maybe like a 10 by 10 foot setup with little tables, as far as I can see. And half of the seafood's still alive. They've got it in tanks or in little bins, and it's swimming around. And then there's these guys running around on these forklift style carts that if you're standing in the middle of the aisle, you better get out of the way because they're not stopping for you. But it was just this crazy hustle and bustle of seafood moving around everywhere. And I watched the show like Wicked Tuna and always saw them, grading it and saying how much it was worth. But going to see them actually auction them off, and it was a true auction style. There was a guy with a bell ringing it around. Couldn't understand what the heck they were saying, but he was pointing at people, and it was the real deal.
Nice.
So, yeah.
The Kansas City crew went there, but we didn't get there till like 10 or 11 in the morning.
Oh
But
yeah,
it's
we had to
still
get there
amazing.
like 5 in the morning to get in line to have a shot at going to see it, because they only take the first 100 people, I think. Back.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
that was what we saw. I mean, obviously what you saw and what we saw were completely different. But one of the first things we saw when we walked in, there's this guy's standing up in the back of it, and they had those trucksters that would haul things around, and they all had a propane cylinder that was like 3 feet tall, not like the little propane cylinders like you see on barbecue grills here, but they were all at least 3 or 4 feet tall propane cylinders. And then the dude stood behind that and drove it, like he was on the back and drove it with the bed in front. So he had one of those backed up to the truck, and we weren't even looking in that direction. And all of a sudden we hear this kaboom, and the guy in the back of the truck just drops a whole tuna that was like the size of my body minus the fins and the head. And it was frozen solid, but he just like kaboom, it almost shook the earth. It was so big. And then the other dude just takes off and drives away with it, and we're just like, holy shit, did you see the size of that? And we saw lots of the live stuff that was still there. At one point I heard from a long ways off, you could hear the sound of a bandsaw. And I was like, what in the hell are they cutting? And we get over there and there's 3 guys. And one he's like taking small pieces and he's sliding them. And then the other guy's sliding them. And then the last guy's catching them and stacking them in a box. And he's cutting cutting this frozen fish with the bandsaw. Zing, zing, zing. And it's like an assembly line. And I've never seen anything like it. It was amazing. The other thing that was badass in Tokyo was the big camera store If you ever get a chance to go to Tokyo, you have to go to the big camera store because it's like 4 stories and they have everything that Sony sells, that Samsung sells, every brand that's available that's reputable. They'll have all the models, all the like if they carry their camera gear, they'll have every camera, body, every lens, all the accessories for that brand, and then they'll have 4 other brands too. And it's Bose. I mean, it's everything. It's amazing. Really cool. Really, really different experience.
How was that? How was it in terms of the experience between 2013 and 2014? You go to Japan in 2013, kind of more as disc golf as a side venture, but you went specifically for the Japan Open in 2014. Were you feeling like this is part of the pro tour? How did that all come about to go to the Japan Open?
Yeah, that event was also a real production with the level that they ran that tournament. Very professional. You know, we were playing at a golf country club. It was a beautiful course, beautifully ran tournament, and adding the element of lighter discs to the competition was pretty cool. And I felt pretty comfortable throwing lighter discs because, you know, I throw lighter discs throwing distance, and I had been throwing blizzard, so. Yeah, I was looking to have a good finish when I went over there to play the Japan Open.
At that year, 2014, you also went to Europe and competed at the European Masters. So that world traveler we add to your title before you're 20 years old. Amazing. How was Europe compared to Japan?
Europe was great. It felt a little bit more like home compared to Japan. Very clean, people very respectful as well, and that was a good experience. I got to go there for about 3 weeks, I think. Stayed with a good buddy, Richard Killander, over there in Gothenburg for a little while and got to see some sights. Ended up, I think I placed pretty decent at the European Masters.
To 15th.
Yeah, that was my first experience with Europe.
Nice.
First and only, haven't been back since.
I noticed that in Stockholm at the one of your Instagrams there, you show the menu from the tasty animals on display: kangaroo, zebra, and veal taken from their mother's teeth to the plate for your tender meat. Did you try the kangaroo while you were there?
I had a kangaroo burger. It was delicious.
Really?
I did.
Nice.
Nice. I've
So
not seen that on the menu yet.
Let's skip on now to what everybody's tuning in for. Let's talk about distance.
Okay.
No one so far has been able to throw anything further, golf discs certainly further than you on this planet. 1,108 feet, 338 meters. Let's talk first again. Let's take it back to the juniors. At one point, you held every age-based juniors distance record. Are you aware? I know you're aware that some of them aren't standing. Are you aware of how many still do stand?
I'm actually not sure how many still stand.
Okay, but I mean that's 9 years old. You threw 343 feet.
Yeah.
Mind blown.
The video's on YouTube too. It's crazy looking at myself 9 years old. Just every ounce of my body is into that throw, even back then.
I think I've seen that one. Is that where there's like a couple? That's where you first set the. I thought it might have been at 11, but I've seen one of those videos where you're doing the full 360. And
yeah, this wasn't even 360. This was pre-360 for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
How easy was that for you to master the 360?
I would say once I started doing it, it didn't take me that long to get it down because I would throw the 360 on every single shot. I would throw it on a wooded shot. I'd be throwing my leopard 360. I just thought it was the coolest thing. So I wanted to go out there and learn it. But, I guess it worked. So no regrets there.
Well, certainly, you definitely have never left anything on the field, pardon the bad pun. When it comes to the Worlds, first of all, you've never finished worse than second in the distance at the Worlds. And the Worlds have moved everywhere. So you can't just say, okay, High Plains, Prim, Nevada, he's good in the thin air. You've been good in every air. Is there one of those 15 years? Oh, and it should be noted in 2013, you were the only player in history to sweep the entire range of field events. That's another amazing accomplishment. of competing at the Worlds in the distance, anything stand out to you? Anybody was pushing you? I know you've got a certain rivalry with Crush Boy Simon Lizotte, but was there anybody else at the Worlds who was kind of your Clamo to you being Stokely, or the opposite?
I pretty much felt like if I got a good throw off, it was going to be hard to beat. And the problem is at the Worlds, you only have 5 throws. So sometimes it's hard to get a good throw off in 5 throws. But, there's looking back, I always had to contend with some bombers, Double G, Jeremy Cole and Simon. Simon doesn't always throw distance competition at the Worlds, but, I think the other person that got me one year, Kevin Jones, got me by a foot one year at Worlds. But another thing with Worlds is, you start throwing in the morning and you can throw all the way till the afternoon. So the conditions can vary greatly throughout the day. So that's another aspect that people don't read
It's
on
not a short window.
Yeah. When people see the distances at the end of the day, they could be very different ways to get to those marks at the top of the leaderboard. But yeah.
It's definitely to your advantage to know what the weather's going to be like, or have an idea at least what the prevailing wind's going to be like and how it might change during the day. Because I remember when we ran that distance competition in Tulsa, it was scorching, and like we all hid under a tree until someone would show up, and because we were there all day, and it was 2 days that we were there for qualifying, and we would all come running out of the tree and do the marks and record the shots, and then we'd all run right back to the tree, and it was hot. It was a scorcher.
Well, I'll tell you one place where you didn't have to run, and this is something, seeing as that we're getting on to the 25th. This is last year's. Oh, I don't know if you. So this is Mace, you're hosting. I don't know how many people know this. Oh, there he is. There's the man. Slow-mo, high def. How is this, as like, now that you're back to it? It felt like when you were doing the distance at Prim, it was you and the couple people there. But this is, the crowd is hype. You got Mace Man hyping you up there. You're throwing across the lake. What's the feeling like here when you're throwing like this?
It's incredible. This is, especially growing up as a kid, going to the USCGC every year because I only lived 2 hours away. I wanted to be up there throwing on that stage when I grew up, and to be able to make that a reality and to throw with that crowd cheering you on. Oh, it's an unreal feeling.
And then
It's
Gannon
like
just walks up and one steps it up onto a 4-foot deck. He's so tall.
The adrenaline that you have when you're up there throwing too, it's unmatched. I mean, definitely coming out a little bit faster than it normally would.
Now it looks like,
At least it feels like it.
It looks to me like that's a pretty short little space to the end of the stage there.
It is a short run up for sure. And it's just a ledge at the end of, so you gotta have a little caution when you're throwing there, not to tumble off at the end.
It's my favorite and my least favorite time of the event every year, because it's like I look forward to that all week, but at the same time it's over after that. So it's kind of bittersweet, but man, it's so much fun. Such a good time to see you guys up there just crushing, and the crowd's going wild, and and then to see the ladies get across.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, David, is Mace a good hype man?
Excellent MC.
Okay. He's I mean, a lot of times that's essential to help get you pumped up. And so
yeah.
Nice. Yeah, it's really interesting. Jonathan and I talked immediately after it was over, and there was obviously some confusion on how many people were supposed to make it and how many people actually did make it. And there was too many people. And first thing he said to me is he goes, man, it went too long. And I said, man, I was about 5 throws short of a full tank of energy on that too, and I mean, like, he goes, if you can't handle it, then how do you think they feel at this point? And I'm like, well, I know how they feel. They want 2 more shots apiece. but I don't necessarily have it, you know, because man, it's an interesting situation. Like I usually eat 2 meals that day in the middle of the day. Like I'll go at like 11 and I'll eat a really light meal somewhat. So either get it from, you know, the player hospital. Well, I used to get it from player hospitality. And then they'll bring me another meal at some point too. And usually I try to space it out to just like, I've done all kinds of things to try to make that energy run. And it's hard. It's not an easy thing to keep up with. And especially not after having been there for 2 weeks and, you know, done all the things, you know, that I get to do while I'm there and see all the people and just all the visits. And it's just an amazing family reunion. And from my perspective, and I'm sure as many times as you've been there, you feel the same way about it. There's some people that you only see there that time of year, you know, and so this year B's going to be one of those people.
Yeah.
Be down there. So
Bringing him back for after like 15 or 18-year hiatus.
yeah, 2009 was my last time there, but just again, like helping out. Listen, we're gonna wrap this up here. I know it's getting a little dark down there, but we started talking a little bit about this pre-show, but just to transition and forgive me for repeating myself to you, but one of the things that I find when I was doing the research, I came across this one article called the Throw for Dough, I think it was called. And the premise started off with saying that you walked away from the game in 2016. And let us just be clear, you never walked away from the game. You've always played PDJ tournaments, Frisbee, disc golf, the sport, the family, it's always in your heart. It's not like you've turned your back on it and you become, you know, a Mormon or, you know, even worse, a professional bowler or something. My apologies to any religious types.
Yeah, hopefully we're not going to be blanked on the Mormon status now. I mean, none of us are, but still, we're not going to be welcome either. Thanks, Pete.
Okay, so I promise no Scientology jibes, but I think it's fantastic that you shifted gears and, you know, you're pursuing other opportunities. Disc golf is an amazing opportunity, and it's certainly given all of us amazing things in our lives. But you grew up with disc golf, so you needed to do something else in your life. You needed to follow your dream, and your dream was, has it always been a naval architect, or what's the official title?
So yeah, naval architecture, marine engineering is the official college program that I went through down here at the University of New Orleans. Basically an engineering program, and I always had a passion for boats and kind of building stuff. I went to welding school before I went down here to New Orleans, and it always kind of, I've had these two lives. I've had the disc golf life, and I've had the kind of life inspired by boats. And you know, I was so focused and so motivated playing disc golf during my, you know, more youthful years that it was nice to change direction a little bit, come down here, get my degree, and go focus on another interest that I had. But disc golf is still a passion, still a lifelong sport that I'll always play. And like you said, I'm still throwing. I'm out there. I've hit a couple of tournaments. I just played the Preserve, played pretty well, didn't cash. Won the distance contest though. I'd say.
Tell them though, what'd you shoot? You were like what, 11-20 rated, and you didn't cash?
Yeah, close to 10-20, something around 10-20.
10-20, excuse me, not 11-20.
I think I fell short of cash by 3 strokes.
Wow.
So I still got the game in me, but I just it's not a priority right now to tour. I will continue to go out and play several big tournaments and play tournaments around here, but I would say the touring lifestyle is hard and not something that I plan.
Well, you got burned out on it as a teenager. Yeah. I mean, what can you expect?
Yeah.
So, what? Are you coming to Rock Hill?
Yeah, I'm definitely coming.
Great. I'm looking forward to seeing you there. Well, let's wrap up with the 20 questions real quick. We can run through this. It won't take very long. This will kind of round out some of the information that we might not have covered. Get it started there, B.
So, okay, here's one of our first standard questions. What's your favorite disc?
Favorite disc of all time? If I'm playing disc golf, the Rock, for sure.
There you go.
Boss for driver, AVR for putter.
Okay.
There
so
you go.
The end of a
What's your
trifecta.
favorite course?
Favorite course is I would say, if I'm looking at the broad spectrum of my disc golf career, growing up, going to Rock Hill while it was set up for USDGC. That was my
Nice.
favorite, because that was on another level compared to the rest of the courses in our sport at the time.
Sure.
So,
Without a doubt.
Winthrop.
so that has asterisks at the timestamp, but I would still say
has.
Rock Hill.
Okay, so how about your favorite disc golf destination?
I always enjoyed going up to the Vibram Open Maple Hill out there.
Mm.
So that's another one of my favorite courses of all time. Yeah.
How many discs did you lose in that pond?
Oh, probably a bag full at this point.
Who's your favorite course designer?
Favorite course designer. I'm gonna probably have to say Stan McDan.
I knew you were gonna say Stan. That makes
Stan
sense, though. I
McDan,
mean, he was definitely the one pushing the envelope while you were coming up, and really
Absolutely.
putting in really hard. I mean, really hard courses, really hard courses.
He put in
He was putting in courses that were hurting people's feelings at the time.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Okay, so
Without a doubt.
favorite. I imagine that Mookie's Cup, Not Yours, might be one of your more favorite sentimental tournaments to play. But what is your favorite tournament that you in all of the tournaments that you've played?
Oh, yeah. So Mookie's Cup, home course, Ocala Open, my home course as well. I haven't played those in years. So I got to put that on the list, and then USDGC.
Okay.
So what's the most cherished tournament win for you?
I would say Am Worlds.
Okay, nice. Now, when you're playing tournaments, when you were maybe not so much now, but when you were doing 20, 30, almost 40 events a year, did you have, or if you did, what was your number one go-to tournament meal?
Tournament meal. I would always want to go to Bojangles before my round in the morning. So a Bojangles Cajun filet biscuit every morning.
They're starting to get those down here now too. So your ability to do that before a round is ever expanding.
We got one. So I moved to Louisiana, and I'm thinking Cajun filet, right? They got to be all over down there.
They're like, what?
Yeah, you can get a biscuit like on the side with some fried chicken, but there's no like biscuit restaurants.
What are you talking about, Cajun filet?
Right.
Okay, so what's your favorite non-tournament meal?
Non-tournament meal, I would say I do like some sushi, so I would say
I had a feeling the fish was going to come up.
Yeah.
Okay, so music. What's your genre? What's your jam?
Oh, I listen to a lot of rock, a lot of country. Still listen to hip hop and a little bit of metal, so I'm all over the board on that.
Anything that wakes you up in the morning? Any favorite song that you hit that you want to like have on your playlist?
Oh, I was listening to Zach Bryan this morning, but nothing that really jumps out at me. I'm always I do a lot of driving, and I'm burning through music, so I got to change it up all the time.
I hear you.
I listen to a lot of music behind the wheel too. So what about a guilty snack? What's your favorite guilty snack?
Guilty snack. Ooh, I would say Reese's Cups.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
B and I both like those.
Okay, let's talk about sports teams. We've talked to a lot of people who have moved around the country like you have, and their sports allegiances, their sports loyalties could split. We had Harold. Harold Duvall's a huge Dodgers fan, but he also rolls Tide. So starting with that, do you have a college football team that you are a big backer of?
I really don't watch that many sports. I would say if I had to pick one, college or professional football. I became a Saints fan since I moved down here. So, yeah, basketball, Tar Heels, still Tar Heel basketball fan.
Okay. How about,
So what? Nothing NBA.
Nothing really NBA. I mean, yeah, I don't really follow the NBA, so I don't.
any baseball sentimentals?
Not really, no. I really don't follow sports too much. I enjoy watching them every now and again, but I don't really care enough to pick favorites.
Well, I think that answers most of the rest of the questions there, eh, Maze?
Yeah, pretty much. Okay, so what about this one? What's your favorite sport to watch besides disc golf? Football, I guess, sounds like.
Yeah, I'd say football.
Now, I know when you were somewhere reading in the research, you had mentioned at one point that you were really into bowling. I think this was when you were a kid. You gave an interview.
Yeah, I bowled in a league when I was a kid.
Do you still bowl at all?
No, my grandpa was a really good bowler. He's bowled several close to 300 games, and I would go up and stay with him during my spring break, and I got into bowling and bowled in a league and whatnot. But I haven't bowled since I was probably 13, 14.
Okay. And so last question, Mace.
What's your geek freak? What is it that you like to do? What do you nerd out on? I mean, reading or science or anything. I mean, what is it that you do that most people don't know about you that's kind of nerdy, brainy, anything like that?
I probably don't think that many people know that I have an engineering degree, and I started my own business surveying boats, marine surveying, ships, barges, yachts. Right now I'm doing tugboats down here in Alabama. So, the construction, engineering, and design of boats, ships, and barges. So that's kind of my nerd thing.
Will you sometimes just look around you if you're like anchored or moored or, at a marina and just kind of size up all the other boats? Do you naturally do that? Yeah.
Oh yeah. I'm on Facebook Marketplace looking on boats. I'm looking at the boats all around me. I'm really analyzing them behind the scenes. So.
Well, I like I told you last time I saw you. Well, excuse me. Like I told you when I saw you for the first time in quite a while last fall, I'm definitely looking forward to coming down and going fishing with you. And now that I know that you're that marine inclined, I'm also looking forward to learning some stuff from you, just from the like, oh, by the way, look at that. And hey, did you know about this? And because there's going to be a whole lot of stuff I don't know anything about, but I'd like to come down and get a chance to fish with you next spring. So let's see if we can make that happen.
Yeah, let's do it. Come on.
Nice. Well, David, thank you so much for taking an extended Good Times hour with us to sit and I would say chat, but also listen to us yak at you. But really awesome to connect with you and to I hope you had a good time. And I know that we had some really great stories that came out of this. The ongoing history of disc golf is a continuing participative project, and we're all collaborating in it. And you've just done a wonderful thing helping us continue and preserve some of the narratives. So thank you for your time and attention tonight.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm honored to make the roster for this with all the other names associated. So thank y'all.
Right on.
Yeah, without a doubt, David, it was great to spend some time with you, and it was really interesting to learn a little bit more. And it won't be long, and we'll be seeing you in Rock Hill.
Heck yeah, looking forward to it. All right,
look forward to seeing you in the flesh. In the meantime, good luck on the contracts. Good luck getting down the road where you need to go.
Thank you.
Right on. Thank you.
All
David.
right. Have a good one, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.